Hello, my name's Jeff Bond. I'm from the People's Church in Constantia, part of the Assemblies of God in South Africa. And if you're in Cape Town and in the southern suburbs, pop in and see us. We'll be delighted to see you, and we can guarantee you will have a warm welcome, especially given the subject that I'm giving today. I'm talking about friendship. I was asked to do a 3-week series on things that are important to me, because I can see the landing lights. In a few weeks' time, I'm handing over the leadership of this church. And so they said, please, over 3 weeks, talk about 3 things that are important to you. Last week I spoke about the church, and today I'm speaking about friendship. And next week I'm going to speak about just keeping on, just carrying on. Friendship. South Africans have got their own idiom, the way that they talk. I don't know whether other countries have the same characteristic, but we have our own language. So if someone says to you, come here, my friend, then you must know something. You're not their friend. It's bad news. They have intentions, maybe violent ones, coming your way. So I want to talk about friendship, but genuine friendship, and how to make friends. Friendship in loneliness. I suppose loneliness is the other side of the coin, which means being socially isolated, and it is an epidemic around the world. That's what I've read. That's what the experts tell us. In England, there is a government ministry called the Ministry for Loneliness. The minister is Baroness Barron, B-A-R-R-A-N. I was told that in Dubai they've got a ministry for happiness. People need to be guided. Our world's not just happening as it should be happening. We've got social problems around us. And when I speak of friendship as being important to me, things that are important to me, I mean to say that it's important to me that I am a friend to people. I'm not saying that it's important that I have friends. I'm saying that it's important that I am a friend, that I give what I have to give, and that is friendship. I'm saying it is important to me that I be a friend. However, anybody who goes to befriend people will find that they are themselves rewarded with friendship. So I am by nature retiring. I am by nature quiet. I am by nature shy. What God thought he was doing when he selected me to go into a public role, I don't know. Me and Wendy, both of us, we had to learn skills in order to do what we do, what we've been doing for however many years it is, since 1981. So we had to do things that didn't come naturally to us. If you don't have friends, you can develop skills, and you can become a friend to people and find that you have friends for yourself. I saw on a combi taxi, Toyota Hiace combi taxis that drive around, on the back window was written in large letters, when times are dark, friends are few. I don't know what events led to that gloomy message being put on his combi taxi. I don't know what led him to that cynical conclusion, but it is true that friends are more plentiful when you are good company. When you're bad company, you find your friends whittle down quite fast. But to repeat, it has always been important to me that I be a good friend to people. It's one of the things that are important to me. When we moved to Cape Town in 2000, we took Haley for her interview. She was going to go to Sweet Valley Primary School. Sorry, not Sweet Valley, Kirstenhof Primary. What am I saying? Kirstenhof Primary. The principal's name was Mr. Barham. And so we had an interview with Mr. Barham with Haley there. And he leaned across his desk and directed his comment directly to Haley. He said, Haley, what is it that worries you the most? good question to ask a child. I thought you'd have spoken about the different curriculum. I thought you'd have spoken about, I don't know what I thought you would have spoken about, but I was taken aback by her answer. Her answer was that I won't be able to make friends. That was what was worrying her. And I think it's a worry for many people, that they won't be able to make friends. Friendship is important to humans. It's a human need. I went to 3 primary and 3 high schools in my schooling career. It didn't help my schooling career, let me tell you. And many of those moves happened in the middle of the year. The authorities at B, in their wisdom, thought that because the removals costs were cheaper in July, that we would move in July rather than in December. So I would arrive at a school when patterns were established and when friendships were already baked in to the community. And I didn't know where the tuck shop was, where the toilets were, how the sports worked. I didn't know about what the prefects expected. Apart from all of those troubles, I would sit by myself at break time. And I hated break. I'd wait for the bell so we could go back to class, because I found break time a difficult time to be. Eventually, I would make friends, but it was a miserable couple of weeks when I first started, because I was an outsider. You may feel that you're an outsider. I'm a person by nature who finds social gatherings difficult. The conference green room, or the milling around at a conference, if I don't know the people that are there, I find it very, very difficult to break in. I find such occasions awkward. I'm not a natural mixer. I'm reserved by nature, and I struggle in such environments. Perhaps that has sensitized me. Perhaps that has been a plus for me. It has helped me, because it's given me an eye to see people that aren't fitting in, to see people that are feeling awkward. And it's given me the empathy and the ability to reach out and draw people in myself. And so forming friendships is a skill I've learned. In my life as a minister, I've had to develop friendship forming skills. And if you're short of friends, it's a skill that you can develop. Popularity. You don't have to be popular to have friends. Popularity is a different thing altogether. I'm not talking about popularity. I'm talking about friendship. People that you can relate to. If you've got friends, you can give way to relational complacency. You can just not work at your friendship, not invest in your friendship, not give time in your friendship, not communicate properly, leave people out, take friendships for granted. Friendships shouldn't be taken for granted. They are valuable, really valuable. I loved the program Cheers. And I loved the slogan. The slogan was Cheers. It was a pub in America, and in Boston. And the slogan was, the place where everybody knows your name. When we come to church, we put on name tags. It's been a winner in church life. People like having their names there. And people like being called by their names. I've made a skill out of remembering people's names. I'm finding that I'm forgetting people's names. I'm forgetting my children's names. I'm forgetting my wife's name. The dogs. I don't know what it is. I'm sort of losing my grip on that. I've got to brush up on that as well. People like to be called by their names. Friends have to be found, and friendships have to be invested in. Friendships don't thrive on neglect. It is strange how, where we have the most powerful tools for communicating, we are communicating less and less. Social media and so on. We find we're becoming more anonymous, and we find that we're becoming more isolated. While we've got all these wonderful communication, why do you think that is? I wonder why that why that is. People need to take a genuine and sincere interest in other people's lives. It's a skill. I've discovered that people are interesting, all people. I've discovered that. I found the opposite of the celebrity culture. I found that the little man, the little woman, the child is interesting. And if you just talk to them and engage with them, there's stories and fascinating perspectives that they provide you with. So a way of making friends is to show an interest in people's lives. At one point there was a surfing competition that went around South Africa. It was called the Spur Surfabout. And they would come to Cape Town. The international surfing stars would come to Cape Town. And then on the radio they would say the competition is going to be at Bloberg, or it's going to be at wherever it was, wherever the waves were working. And on this occasion, the waves were at the Outer Kom, at Kommetjie. So I thought, I'm going to watch. And I went. Now, if you know me at all, you'll know that surfing's not my forte. I couldn't surf, I couldn't ride a skateboard, I can't balance. So I'm by no means, the only time I ever pulled on a wetsuit, I just about suffocated and had to be rescued out of the ocean because I couldn't breathe, because it was someone's wife's wetsuit and it was too small for me. So I'm not a surfer, but I went down just for interest's sake, and I sat on the rocks at the Outer Kom there near the lighthouse and watched them surfing. And so there was a surfer sitting there with his board, and I said, "Hey, where are you from?" "California." I said, "What do you think of Cape Town?" "Oh, he loves it." I said, "What do you think of the waves?" Talking like I'm a surfer and I know what I'm talking about. He says, "These are the most powerful waves I've ever experienced anywhere in the world." I said, "Wow." And we got into a conversation just because I was taking an interest in him as a human being. He was happy to talk to me. If I'd said to him, "Hey, do you want to know about me and where I come from and what my life is like?" he'd have thought I'm talking to a nutcase. But if I was willing to talk to him about him, he was happy to talk to me. I've sat and spoken, had a conversation with famous cyclists. Cadel Evans won the Tour de France, world champion, a cyclist as well, world champion mountain biker. Sat talking to him and to his cycling partner. They were doing the Cape Epic. His name was George Hincapie. I sat and talked to them, and they were very happy to talk to me because I was very happy to talk about them, and they were happy to talk about themselves. And so we had a long conversation. And George Hincapie still said to me, "Listen, he lives in California, on the east coast of America, and he said if you're there sometime, and I've got a boarding house, you can come stay with us, and show you around, and so on." So he was very, very, very friendly because I showed an interest in him. If you want to make friends, show an interest in people. They are interesting. People are interesting. Remember Jesus? This isn't a Reader's Digest talk. I'm a minister, and I'm a minister of the gospel. So do you remember Jesus, where he speaks to that woman, "Can you give me a drink of water?" And the conversation takes off from there. People are like an island. If you have a message for them, you've got to row around that island a number of times before you find a place to land. Jesus found the place to land. He said, "Can you give me a drink of water?" And the conversation took off there. And an entire community was impacted because of reaching out to a total stranger. If I say that friendship is a skill and talking to strangers is a skill, I've observed my good friend, who I will meet again in heaven, Donovan. He had the natural ability to just talk to anybody and get involved in, you would talk to people in the street. He would talk to people as they were going down the escalator and he was going up. He'd talk to them in those 2 seconds. He was always talking to people. I learned a great deal from him by observing him in action. And I saw that it was a skill. So I was with him in Johannesburg, and we came back to the motor car, and there was a policeman busy writing out a ticket. The parking meter had expired, and Donovan got speaking to him. Hey, how are you? He stopped writing the ticket. Donovan said to him, where do you come from? Do you come from Joburg? Your accent's a little bit different. And the man said, no, I come from, and he mentioned a place near Petersburg. Ah, I'm from Petersburg. They got talking. They found out that they knew people, common people, people in common, I mean. And the story ended with the policeman saying, listen, I've started writing this ticket. I can't just tear it out and write nothing. I'm just going to put there that you must show your driver's license at the nearest police station, so you don't have to pay a fine. And so he wrote that out, gave it, got me, it was my motor car. He got us, just by talking, he managed to make some progress and not have to pay a fine. Friendship is a risk. Sometimes people keep themselves out, they cut themselves off from people because they need to protect themselves, because they've had bad experiences in the past. So they retreat into their castle, they pull up the drawbridge, and it's just them and their little family, and they're not friendly to people at all. And that's not a sign that they are unfriendly people. It's a sign that they are hurt people, damaged people, and they're people that have struggled. And so the temptation is to retreat when you're disappointed, when you've been betrayed, and when you've experienced pain through friendship. So here's a guarantee. Friendship means pain. When you have friendship, you become vulnerable. And some people don't want to be vulnerable. But you have to be vulnerable, be willing to be vulnerable. Church is a specific environment. It's a different type of place, is church. In church, we're not allowed to fight. In church, we're not allowed to tell people off. In church, we're not allowed to say, hey, I'm upset with you, because that's not what Christians do. And so we sit on conflict situations. We keep the lid on the pot. And then when eventually the lid blows, it's ugly, because we haven't dealt with things along the way. Friendships in church can lead to pain. I've experienced that as well. Perhaps you have too. But because things have happened in church that shouldn't have happened in church, and church fights can be vicious, and you've observed it, you said, no, I don't want to have anything to do with church. It's a skill thing, people. We need to be able to navigate our friendships, to guard our friendships, to be able to communicate. Doesn't it say in the Bible, in your anger, don't sin, and tell the truth to people, but don't sin? In other words, you can be upset with people, but don't let it lead to a sinning situation. Friendships in Christian communities do have difficulties. And the Bible's such an honest book. Is Paul and Barnabas. You know that Barnabas wasn't a name. Barnabas was a nickname. It means the encourager. Barnabas was the warm, fuzzy guy that always had his arms around people's shoulders. People always felt good when he was around. He encouraged people. In fact, in the Message version, it says they call him Barney the preacher or Barney the encourager. That was what he was like. Very influential, widely loved. And Acts chapter 11. So things happened in a place called Antioch. News of this reached the ears of the church, Acts 11:22, in Jerusalem. And they sent Barnabas, he was from Jerusalem, to Antioch. When he arrived and saw the evidence of the grace of God, he was glad and encouraged them all to remain true to the Lord with all of their hearts. Then it describes him. He was a good man, full of the Holy Spirit and faith. And a great number of people were brought to the Lord. So he wasn't just an ordinary guy. Then Barnabas went to Tarsus to look for Saul. And when he found him, he brought him to Antioch. So for a whole year, Barnabas and Saul met with the church and taught great numbers of people. The disciples were called Christians first at Antioch. So I'll read you that passage just to make the point that Barnabas was a special leader, a respected leader. He had status in the church. He was trusted by the people in the church. And then they go off, and Acts chapter 15. Sometime later, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us go back and visit the brothers in all the towns where we preach the word of the Lord, and see how they are doing." Barnabas wanted to take John, also called Mark, with him. But Paul did not think it wise to take him, because he had deserted them in Pamphylia and had not continued with them in the work. They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. That's Paul and Barnabas. Barnabas took Mark and sailed for Cyprus, but Paul chose Silas and left, commended by the brothers to the grace of the Lord. So, from Acts chapter 11 to Acts chapter 15, they went on Paul's first missionary journey, it was called. And Paul became the leader. It was Barnabas and Paul, Barnabas and Paul. Then it becomes Paul and Barnabas, Paul and Barnabas. They come back. Everyone's very, very happy, and they've had a fantastic time. They're close friends, those two. They're working well as a team. Then the second time, when Paul says, "Let's go again," Barnabas says, "Good idea. You won't mind if I bring John Mark, do you?" Paul said, "I do mind if you bring him. He ran away last time, and I don't have people that run away in my team." They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. It was a fight between Paul and Barnabas, a disagreement, a sharp disagreement, harsh words spoken. What was it about? It wasn't about Paul, nor was it about Barnabas. It was actually about John Mark. John Mark was Barnabas' nephew, the son of Barnabas' sister. They had a long story, they had a long history. He saw something in John Mark, but so did Paul see something in John Mark. And they couldn't agree about a person and a personality. And so they came to a parting, a fallout. Strange, hey, isn't it? That Christians that have such high status as Paul and Barnabas can fall out with each other. Good and godly men can have disagreements too. It's not all kumbaya when strong personalities are involved in God's work. And so I've lived in a household all of my life from when I was a little child. Lived with a strong personality. My father had achieved a great deal in his life and ministry, highly respected not only in his denomination, but highly respected in other denominations in the church world at large. He achieved a great deal, but he had a sharp tongue. There's some people who wouldn't enjoy him because they'd had the edge of his sharp tongue. He was tough-minded, single-minded, and people fell out with him along the way. And I saw the pain that came as colleagues and friends weren't able to work together. We need to be realistic and understand that these things also happen in church life. Pain is involved in friendship. Jesus had an inner circle. Peter, James, and John were Jesus' inner circle. John unblushingly describes himself as the disciple that Jesus loved. I don't know whether that was a title that he gave himself, or whether Jesus gave it to him, or whether the people observed it and said, "Oh, that's a special one." I don't know. But he described himself as and it's in the Bible, that he was the disciple that Jesus loved. Jesus had a close relationship with Martha and Mary and Lazarus. Their home was a safe place. Everyone needs a safe place. Ministers aren't good at friendships. They're not. Ministers need safe places. I've had safe places. I have safe places where I can go and just relax and just be. I remember Grand Prix Sunday afternoon as the cars go around. The exciting part is the start. We at our safe place, friend's home, and I stretch out on the couch and watch, and I fall asleep. When I wake up later on, the Grand Prix is finished and I've got a blanket, someone's put a blanket over me, and I've had a good snooze on the couch. Not my home, but I've made myself at home. You need somewhere, a safe place where you can make yourself at home. Ministers need a safe place. I've got my safe place now. Sometimes I send a message and just to somebody and I say, I'm thirsty. They know what I mean. They say, well, when can you come? And I go and we have supper, or we have coffee or something. Just a safe place, a place where we can relax. Friendship involves having an inner circle, and friendship involves having a safe place. It is important. Last thing I want to speak about is troubles and friendship. Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity. You need a friend that is there when things go wrong with you. There's more than one word in the New Testament that applies to friendship. There's comradeship, fellow soldiers. Sometimes going through adversity bonds people. Sometimes going through adversity thins the crowd of companions right down. The last thing that I want to say is that Jesus can call us friends. It's the most wonderful thing to say, you're my friend. Jesus said this in John chapter 15, verses 14 through to 16. He said, I could have called you servants, but I'm not going to call you servants. I'm going to call you friends. To be a friend of Jesus is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And if you can't have friends, you can't have Jesus as a friend either, because you don't have the skills. You don't have the skills of putting in the effort of relationship. You don't have the skills of communication. You don't have the skills of trust and regarding somebody as being your safe place. You need to have that regarding Jesus as your safe place. Regard him as your friend. God bless you. Trust that this has been helpful to you.